outline of what's going on. So.
Oh, great.
I am going live and recording now just to get us prepared. We are still waiting for Patty, but we do have quorum if you want to go ahead and start whenever.
And Tracy Wilder, I think you're third on our action items. So same sort of thing. I'll do a presentation and you can feel free to address the commission if you want, or just be available to answer questions.
Zach, was Patty joining shortly? Do you know?
I think so. She will need to leave early, but she said that she was going to be joining. But I don't know exactly when.
Yeah, Carol, it's up to you. We do have quorum, so we could get started if you want.
And when she pops in, I can just add her in the minutes.
Sounds good. All right. I will now call to order the September 16th meeting of the Salem Historic Landmarks Commission. Will the recorder please take roll call?
Commissioner Cottingham.
Here.
Commissioner Kurteman.
Here.
Commissioner French. Commissioner Fuller.
Here.
Commissioner Ponce.
Here.
Commissioner Mulvihill. Commissioner Thomas.
Here.
Commissioner Zimmerman.
Here.
And Commissioner Schwartz is absent, and Commissioner Mulvihill is currently absent, but I will let you know when she arrives. And we have quorum.
Thank you, Zach. Now, the commission will now hear testimony from the public concerning items not on the agenda. And I can ask if there's anyone wishing to speak at this time, but I believe since we're virtual, we know. Is there somebody here to speak?
Yes, we have Marvin Sanis. I actually don't know how to pronounce your last name, Marvin. Sorry about that. But Marvin, now would be the time for your testimony.
And
Oh, good.
Marvin, I'd like to say welcome you. And just a reminder for anyone giving public testimony or comments tonight, please start by providing your name and address for the recorder. And we have about 5 minutes for each comment. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm Marvin Sanis. I live at 640 15th Street Northeast in Salem. And I've owned the old West Salem City Hall on Edgewater since 1989. I wrote the successful nomination to the National Register of Historic Places in 1991. And we've been restoring the building ever since. And every time we had a decision to make about this building, the first question we ask is, what did they do in 1935-36? And we followed that since. Now, here we are today with, we have an excellent tenant in the lower level of the building. They're in their third year. The COVID crisis and the mandates that closing up has just killed them. Last winter, they got a grant from the city of Salem to do a patio cover over our old Head Start playground that we constructed in 2013, I think. Anyway, they didn't think they needed a permit for a patio cover. Well, as it turns out, they not only needed a permit, we needed a full historic landmarks review. We needed an Edgewater overlay permitting process. We needed Willamette River Greenway permitting process. We needed flood. Anyway, it has turned into a Byzantine catastrophe. Independence's historic district And they have visited, the planner and the permitting official have both visited this structure. And they'll take it in the Independence Historic District for $250. We are looking at over $10,000 in permitting costs to, if we can get this thing permitted. So I don't know what we can do. What I'm doing is just trying to generate a little sympathy, a little noise, something, but it's probably, this is a wonderful, wonderful resource for the Edgewater community. The West Salem Business Association supports us. The West Salem Neighborhood Association supports us. The Edgewater Partners. Stapleton's been here. Kimberly has looked at it. Anyway, it's just a nightmare. The permitting for the Historic Landmarks Commission is $3,800. And that's just to apply. So anyway, we're just hoping that, boy, if some of you people could come by and look at this thing, we're probably looking at a red tag and they're going to move it to Independence. And it'll just break my heart. This beam, if you look behind me, I don't know, Zach was going to show some of those pictures. This is the lower level of the building. Take a look at that beam that we finished. Here's what Mitch did in here. Look at this thing. It's just stunning. The fit and finish on this, there could not be a higher and best use for this space. And it matches the building to a T. So, okay. Hey, help us out if you can. Thank you. Thanks, Zach.
Thank you, Marvin. And I should have said too, when you were beginning, that Zach did have some images he shared. So I believe emailed out to the commissioners this afternoon.
Yes, and I can share those now if the commissioners would like to view them during the meeting, but I did send those all via email, so you should all have them.
And I'm definitely sorry for your challenges. I'm glad that you were able to come tonight, and certainly as a way to add it to the record. As we know that resource, we've seen it and talked about it in the past in other contexts. Kimberly, would you do you know what the process would be, or if there's obviously there's no action items tonight, but if there be next steps or things that when HLC would be able to discuss this item?
Yeah, I'd be happy to go over that. But before I do, Zach, I just got a note from Patty. Can you send her the link? She can't seem to find it for the meeting. Yeah, so Marvin, and he had the tenant and I believe the architectural team attended a pre-application conference where the city of Salem outlined what would be required to bring this accessory structure back into compliance. And so, yeah, as Marvin mentioned, there are a number of different processes required. And the Landmarks Commission, the Historic Design Review, is only one of those. And that fee for a public hearing is above $3,000. But that would be for bringing it to the commission as it is, not changing any design. We do have an alternative process available, which would be an administrative review, but it would require a design change. So we have certain standards that would require the accessory structure to be to match the exterior siding, for example, on the West Salem City Hall, and to change the roof line slightly. So, you know, I know that there are a number of different challenges, and I don't think that the Landmarks Commission is in a position to fix this problem. I think the process is what it is. The fees are what they are, and it is in a challenging location with a number of overlays and in a floodway and in the greenway. So I hope that provides a little clarity. I know that we as city staff are here to assist if the tenant does, or if Marvin gets a new tenant, we're happy to meet with them and try and help him navigate through.
Perfect, thank you. And I think I saw that Marvin left the meeting. Is there anyone else that is signed up or has joined for general public comment tonight?
No, we have a couple of people who are here to present during the action items as well as the public hearing, but no one else is currently signed up for public testimony for things not on the agenda. And just as a reminder for the people who are present, keep your cameras and microphones off until you're called on for your case or action item.
Thank you. All right. Going back to our agenda, our next item is approval of minutes. May I please have a motion to approve the minutes?
I so move to approve them as written.
Do we have a second?
I will second.
And I guess we go to a vote. All those in favor?
I'm not a commissioner, but I did notice while I was preparing today's minutes, 2 very small errors. So in one of the places, I put commissioner none instead of just questions none. And I had one wrong date of today's approval. So I will edit those, but just as a 2 small errors that I noticed. But anyways, continue.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving the minutes with the 2 small edits that Zach noted?
Aye. Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And I forgot to say that Commissioner Zimmerman moved to approve, and I'm sorry, I forgot who seconded.
Commissioner Fuller, I believe.
Commissioner Fuller. All right, minutes are approved. With that, we move to our public hearings. Tonight we have one alteration, historic design review. And I know that everyone has received the materials in advance. So first, I will open the public hearing for historic review case number 1919 mod 1 for 195 197 Commercial Street Southeast. And will the recorder please read the hearing procedure statement into the record?
This is a public hearing to consider case number HIS 19-19 mod 1 for property located at 195 Commercial Street Southeast. The criteria applicable to this hearing are listed in Salem Revised Code, Chapter 230.050, Standards for New Construction in Commercial Historic Districts. Failure to raise an issue prior to the close of the public hearing with statements or evidence sufficient to afford the Historic Landmarks Commission and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the hearings officer on that issue. A similar failure to raise constitutional issues relating to proposed conditions of approval precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Prior to the conclusion of the hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence or testimony. The Historic Landmarks Commission will then either continue the public hearing or leave the record open for at least 7 days.
Thank you, Zach. And this hearing, there was also physical material. We're gonna talk about that in 1 second. But prior to that, I need to ask, are there any conflicts of interest or ex parte contacts that any commissioners would like to declare at this time? Hearing none. As I said, this is for this hearing, there was also physical material. This is something that I guess many of commissioners have joined since we've been remote, but if we were meeting in person as we did prior to COVID, this would be something that would be at the meeting we passed around. Instead, the applicant had it available at City Hall. And I know there was a sign-up sheet, but just for the record, I'm gonna ask that Zach do a roll call of commissioners to see if they went in and saw the material. Can you do a roll call for that, Zach, please?
Sure. And indicate that you did by aye or you didn't by nay. So Commissioner Cunningham,
Aye.
Commissioner Kerdeman,
Aye.
Commissioner French,
Aye.
Commissioner Fuller,
Aye.
Commissioner Pont,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
and Commissioner Zimmerman. Commissioner Zimmerman.
I know he signed the sheet.
Yeah.
We can't hear you.
Might be muted.
You're muted now. You want to
You could,
do it in the chat, maybe?
you can use the chat.
I don't know what's going on with my machine.
Oh,
you
there
go.
you are. There you
Here,
are.
okay. Yeah, I must have some sort of a lag, but
Okay, great. So all the commissioners present except for French have viewed it. So
Thank you. So with that, I will, may we now have the staff presentation?
Hi, I'm Kimberly Fitzgerald, the Historic Preservation Officer for the City of Salem. I'd like to enter the staff report, its attachments, and all public testimony into the record. So this property is currently a vacant lot. It's under development located at 195, 197 Commercial Street Southeast. Here's a map of our historic district, just to give you a sense. It's at the southwest section of the district. And previously, when the Marion Car Park was on the property, it was a historic contributing resource there right at the edge of the downtown National Register district. So to give you just a little bit of history about this site, this is a historic picture of the Marion Car Rental and Park, which operated originally as an amenity for the Marion Hotel from 1950 to 1954. And then it was continuously used as a parking garage by various owners and operators. It had a repair shop and a functioning gas station at various times. It was designed, well, we're not sure if it was designed by Pietro Beluschi himself or someone in his firm. And in the lower right of your screen, you can see a picture of the car park. In 2018, so the Landmarks Commission approved the structure to be demolished with case number HIS 18-34. A little bit more history, because this new hotel is named after the Holman building. The site was the meeting place for the Oregon State Legislature from 1859 to 1876. And ironically enough, this building was demolished in order to make way for that parking garage. So David Dunaway, the Oregon State Archivist, led one of Salem's first advocacy efforts in 1949, and he was unsuccessful ultimately to try to prevent the demolition of the Holman building. So as a way of background, the Landmarks Commission approved this hotel on November 22nd, 2019. We were in person then. Oh boy, remember that. With one condition relating to the interpretation about the history of the site. And just as part of that, the approved window type at that time was an aluminum clad wood product. So the proposal before you this evening, the applicant is proposing a new window type, a commercial grade vinyl window made by Inotech with aluminum foil cladding. And just for floors 3 through 7. So the storefront glazing will not change. The applicant has not proposed any additional changes to the exterior, either in material or design. Here's a cross-section of the proposed window. And it, on the left side of your screen, you can see where the aluminum foil on the exterior face is. Here's a typical wall section and typical facade bay, just clarifying that the design of the proposed new windows will be the same, no changes other than the material. Okay, so I'm going to go through the applicable standards in Salem Revised Code 230050 now. So as I mentioned, the applicant is not proposing any changes to the overall exterior cladding on the primary facade. So staff recommends the Landmarks Commission find that SRC 230050A1 is not applicable to the evaluation of this proposal. As I mentioned, they're proposing to install the commercial grade Inotech vinyl windows on floors 3 through 7 throughout the proposed new home and hotel instead of the originally approved aluminum clad wood windows. Overall, the window itself is a substantially modern material, and vinyl, while it's not a material that would have been available during the period of significance for the district, which ended in 1950, that portion of the exterior window frames that will be visible will be clad in that aluminum foil, and metal was a traditional material for windows during the period of significance. So staff would recommend the HLC find that SRC 230050A2 and 3 have been met. As I mentioned before, the applicant is not proposing any changes to the design of the windows, but I do want to kind of walk through the new Inotech commercial grade vinyl windows. They overall are going to still retain that general tripartite form of historic contributing buildings in the district with that articulated base, column, and capital, with the patterning of the windows forming that vertical column. So it still continues in staff's opinion to meet this criteria relating to design. So staff recommends the Landmarks Commission find that this is, while it's a contemporary postmodern commercial style building, that the window designs are generally compatible in design with the downtown historic district, and that SRC 230050B has been met. The applicant has not proposed any changes to the location, storefronts, parking, and there's no proposed pedestrian walkways, drive-throughs, or manufactured dwellings. So staff recommends the Landmarks Commission find that SRC 230050B 2 through 7 are not applicable to the evaluation of this proposal. And I just want to point out the applicant is not proposing any changes to their proposed interpretive panel. Staff recommends the HLC find that this condition will still continue to apply. However, it is not applicable to the evaluation of this proposal. Comments were received from John Christensen as a personal comment, not as a representative from his neighborhood association, and also from Can Do. Neither had any objection or opposed the current proposal. So based upon the information presented in this staff report and the application submitted for review, staff recommends the Landmarks Commission approve the proposal. That concludes the staff report. And I'm going to stop sharing, but let me know if there's anything you want to see. I can reshare.
Thank you, Kimberly.
And Patty's
any
here,
of the-
I just want to say for the record.
Oh,
Hi, Patty.
Yes, just for the record, Commissioner Mulvihill did join at 5:48. And can you confirm that you did go into the Civic Center and view the resource?
Yes, I did this afternoon, or maybe this morning, sometime today.
Wonderful, thank you.
thank you. I see a hand up, but so do any commissioners have any questions for staff? Commissioner Thomas, do you have a question for staff?
Yeah, and it's probably more of a comment. I noticed in the staff report, it was November 22nd is listed, and I think you verbally said the 22nd, but it was the 21st when it was approved, which is a Thursday, unless it somehow carried over for official approval. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. An interesting point you bring up. The official decision notice doesn't go out until the day after you have the hearing. So that's when we have the
That's when
date.
you say it's official.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
Well,
thanks.
but then, yeah, without going too into the weeds about. Yeah.
No problem. Thanks.
Are there other commissioners that have a question? Please chime in or use the raise hand function. I can't see everyone at the same time, so I'm scrolling here. Okay, well, hearing none, thank you again, and I will now call for the applicant's presentation. Is the applicant here or someone on their behalf?
Yeah, my name is Bob Thompson. I'm design principal here at TVA Architects, and I'm here with Ian McKenzie, who is also the project manager on the project. So do we get control of this? Got to get the young people in here to manage the process. There we go.
And when you begin, will you please make sure that you state the name and address for the record, or your business address if you're representing the applicant.
Yeah, again, my name is Bob Thompson, and I'm here with Ian McKenzie. We're both with TVA Architects. Our address is 920 Southwest 6th Avenue in Portland. So as Kimberly was saying, I mean, this is a pretty minor adjustment that we're making to the project. This is, we're basically substituting our original window with this window. We've had some significant schedule problems with some of the other manufacturers. So this is a very high quality, it's an aluminum clad, steel reinforced vinyl window. And one of the things that we're really happy about, it's a much higher performing window from a thermal and energy perspective. So you know, we're viewing this as a win-win. There's virtually no visual difference on this window from the window that we actually originally presented in our landmarks hearing. So can they see the cursor? Yeah. So again, this window starts up on level 3 and it goes up through level 7. So the exterior finish, the look, the feel, the character of it is the same. And as Kimberly says, we're not changing anything related to the architecture, the rhythm, the language of the windows itself. So yeah, so we'll just move. Again, this is just a couple views of the building, which Kimberly's already gone through. And like we said, we're not changing any aspect of the project in any way from a design perspective. So what was approved, the only difference between the window that was approved and this window, there's no change in the aesthetic and the look of it. On the interior or the exterior, it's just the core of the window itself. So we're getting a lot of benefit from, obviously from a schedule perspective, which the industry, as you know, has been challenged in many ways over the last year. So we're happy we're under construction. I don't know if you've been by the site, but we're in the process of laying down footings and getting site excavation underway. So again, different views. So essentially it's just from the 3rd level up. So, you know, really that's the only thing we're changing on the project right now. So again, from a pedestrian perspective, from the public perspective, from an architectural perspective, we're not proposing any changes to the project. So we've had a good relationship working with Kimberly on this, and we appreciate the city's support, you know, so we're moving forward quickly on the project. So we're excited to get it, you know, underway. So that's really about where we are. One of the things I just wanted to show you, this is the Initech product. There's a series of buildings in Portland. We'll just show a few of them where Initech, again, a very high grade, high quality window. This is a new project down in the Pearl District. It was completed about 1.5 years ago. It's an apartment tower down there. This is all Initech windows. This is another condominium. It's actually an apartment project right now that's completed over by the Lloyd Center right off of I-84. This is the identical window in black that we're using. So it gives you a good feel for the look and the quality of it. This is another tower. It's just a couple blocks from our office that uses the identical window, the Initech window that we're proposing. So we just wanted to touch base and let you know any kind of adjustments or tweaks that we're making on the project, so we have total transparency on what we're doing. So if there are any questions, we're here to answer those. So thank you. I think you're on mute.
It's okay. I have a dog that keeps going in and out of the room here. So are there any questions from the commissioners for the applicant? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Do you want to
And
stop? Sorry, do you want to stop sharing, Bob
Sure.
or Ian?
Stop sharing. There you go.
Thank you.
and as was noted, we received within our packet, we received some comment, but is there anyone that is here tonight representing the neighborhood association?
No, we don't have anyone
So.
besides the applicant signed up for this case.
Excellent. Thank you. And is there anyone else who's not signed up who would like to testify? Assuming there is none. We'll go back to the commissioners to see at this point, are there any additional questions for staff on this case? Okay, finally, I would like to ask that if anyone who has provided testimony would like to keep the record open to submit additional evidence that has not yet been presented. Hearing none, I will now close the public hearing. No additional testimony will be accepted at this time without formally reopening the hearing. So before we begin discussion, I will now call for a motion.
Move to approve.
This is Patty. I'll second.
Thank you. Commissioner Fuller moves to approve. And
Thomas.
Commissioner Mulvihill. Oh, Thomas.
Yeah.
I can't see everyone's face at the same time, so I apologize. Commissioner Mulvihill seconds. Commissioner Thomas, to your motion.
Yeah, upon viewing that sample there at the at City Hall, is very impressed with the product, especially and I'm glad you mentioned the energy thing, because I work in energy and immediately picked up on that. And even though I was not at the last hearing, I did pull up the old staff report, and I do appreciate the pictures of you showing it in existing buildings. And really just commend you guys on your choice, and we'll appreciate to see a great building at that corner.
Thank you.
You. Would anyone else like to comment? Well, before we call for a vote, I'll say that I also appreciate taking the time to come back tonight on this. This is a property I was on commission when we discussed the demolition and those other parts, and that as was true then and today, although it's new, just the height, the massing, and the uses are really complementary to our significant buildings that are in the historic downtown. So the commission is really looking forward to how it will continue to contribute to supporting all those resources. And with that, I will now call a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. The motion passes. I didn't get a hammer, so I'll strike my pen. The motion passes.
I think we technically have an abstention.
Yeah, Commissioner French abstained.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Let me shuffle my papers for a second here. All right, so with our agenda, that was our only public hearing for tonight. It brings us to our action items. Our first action item is Salem Heritage Neighborhood Program. May we please have the staff presentation?
Thank you. So tonight, the Landmarks Commission is going to consider a request from the Highland Neighborhood Association to designate their neighborhood as a Salem Heritage Neighborhood. The Salem Heritage Neighborhood Program was established in 2014 by City Council. I don't know if any of you that are currently on the HLC were around when we did that. The program is intended to encourage Salem neighborhoods to learn about the history of their neighborhood. There's no regulation involved, so unlike a historic district or even an overlay. So we have in the past worked with the Grant neighborhood and the Cessna neighborhood on some great projects. You can see some examples on your screen. We did some calendars, we did an architectural guidebook, and some sign toppers. So a little bit about what we've done with the Highland Neighborhood Association in the past. And I'm sorry to say that the last time the HLC assisted with an inventory of historic structures in this neighborhood was back in 1979 as part of the Goal 5 Salem inventory for the city. You can see here, there's the map on the upper right side of your screen. At that time, 10 resources were identified for local designation. And you can see here, like on the left-hand side, if you're not familiar with where it's at, there's a map there on your screen. Here's a few pictures of a few of the resources that were designated as part of this early effort, including the Highland Friends Church, the Emmanuel Baptist Church, and the Christensen House. The Temple Beth Shalom, which is on the lower left there on your screen, was actually individually listed later in 2010 as part of an adaptive reuse process at that time for a dance studio. So I just want to point out that working with neighborhood associations through the Salem Heritage Neighborhood Program is actually identified in our work plan for 2022. So the timing is wonderful. This is adopted in our most recently enacted 2020-2030 Historic Preservation Plan, if you all remember. And it's related to improving public outreach and community education. So just a bit of background on what the Highland Neighborhood Association has done already. So on August 12th, the Highland Neighborhood established a heritage committee chaired by Leah Tracy Gaynor. She's here this evening, along with Christian, to look into pursuing the heritage designation for the Highland neighborhood. And then we received a letter on August 24th from the Neighborhood Association formally requesting recognition as a Salem Heritage Neighborhood. And they've proposed that a subsection of their neighborhood association boundary be designated rather than the entire boundary due to the age of the homes and the significant sites included within that area. And so you can see a map there on the right-hand side of your screen. I just want to point out that part of the work that we're going to be doing with the Neighborhood Association is doing some survey and inventory and kind of verifying the dates. So at the end of 2022, early 2023, we'll be recommending a final boundary, which may look the same or it may look different, depending on what we find. And then I just want to also mention that staff has identified a funding source to discuss a little bit more during discussion items, which is the Oregon Heritage Grant to help us provide funding for this program. Assuming that we can secure funds, then at the HLC's direction, we can work with the Highland neighborhood to complete some fun projects to celebrate their history. Initially, and they can speak to this more, they're looking at historic markers, maybe a more robust marker for the childhood home for President Herbert Hoover, and some street sign toppers. So now we're getting into the criteria. So the eligibility. So any recognized Salem Neighborhood Association may apply, and definitely a Highland Neighborhood Association is recognized. It's been around, I believe, since 1976. They can correct me if I'm wrong on that date. So staff recommends that the HLC find that this criterion has been met. And then the second criteria is that at least 50% of the resources within that boundary identified by the neighborhood association for recognition must be 50 years old or older. And even at this preliminary time, we're looking at an estimated 88% of the resources within that boundary that are 50 years old or older. So staff recommends that the Landmarks Commission find that this criterion relating to age has been met as well. So the HLC has a number of different choices. You don't have to take action this evening. If you need additional information, you can certainly request that. You can decide to move forward with the designation this evening. This is what staff's recommending that the Landmarks Commission do. And if that's what you would like to do, then you would need to make a motion and vote to authorize staff to draft a letter of designation to be sent to the Highland Neighborhood Association. And that letter would be signed by the acting chair this evening. Alternatively, you can choose to make a different action and just decide not to designate this neighborhood, and you can authorize staff to draft a letter declining your request. So those are your options this evening, and that concludes my staff report. I'm going to stop sharing now, and I believe so Christian and Leah are here this evening if they want to see it.
Thank you, Kimberly. And I think before, does anyone have questions for staff before we turn it over? And we can always ask questions again later. Okay. With that, we will happily turn it over to whoever is going to go first. And please, again, state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Christian Kelly. I live at 2045 Laurel Avenue, Northeast, Salem, 301. And I'm the Highland Neighborhood Association Chair. I want to thank you. I wrote this whole big thing out, so I'm just going to read it. I did.
I'm guessing he
We
lost
you,
connection.
Christian.
It looks like we might have lost Christian.
I think so.
Okay. Do you want me to pop in, Kimberly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why don't you share, and then hopefully he can rejoin.
Okay, great. My name is Leah Tracy Gaynor. I am the newly appointed Highland Neighborhood Heritage Committee Chair. So that's a mouthful. I live at 1915 Maple Avenue Northeast in the Highland neighborhood. We purchased our 1920s Craftsman farmhouse in August of 2015 in the Highland neighborhood. It was in the same family from the time it was built by Sadie and George Pro until from 1919, which is neighborhood lore because the city records say 1920, until 2007, when it had fallen into disrepair, as many of the homes in our neighborhood had. And then it was flipped and sold again. And we are the third owner since the remodel, but last year at the 100th birthday of our house, we put a little sign on the house that we had made by an artist celebrating the 100th anniversary of our house. It just says the Sadie Pro House circa 1920. And since that time, we've had several family members of the state of Sadie Pro stop by to tour the house and chat with us about their growing up years. So it's been really neat. So that's the kind of thing that's been happening in our neighborhood organically. So to have this type of opportunity is really meaningful. I am also, I'm a writer by trade, but also a realtor. So this is how this sort of came about. Getting in touch with Kimberly was I was selling a house in Southeast and I saw the heritage markers and I thought, oh gosh, I've seen those in Grant when I'm walking my dog. You know, Highland should have this and we should be able to have this pride. And so lo and behold, I reached out to Kimberly and here we are today with the support of the Highland Neighborhood Association. Really just looking forward to having something to look forward to for our neighborhood, especially over the past year and year plus. It's been a pretty down time for us, and we've seen our neighborhood grow with new people, interacting with the people that have been here for a long time. We even have an unofficial mayor of our neighborhood. Her name is Betty Crocker. She doesn't cook, but if you live in our neighborhood, you would know her. So anyway, just to have something really positive to focus on in our neighborhood, with its history, of course, which many longtime Salemites would know. We've really tried to and continue to try to bring everyone up, and there's a real unity in this neighborhood. So we just see this designation as a truly beneficial honor and a service to our neighborhood that we can use to beautify and celebrate it. So we could certainly use the morale boost, I think. And I'm just really grateful to be part of a positive venture. So happy to answer any questions. I think it's fairly obvious if anyone's ever been in this pocket of the boundary, is that we have mainly older homes, certainly well over 50 years old. We have a lot of post-war cottages, and then we have things all the way back to the late 1800s, or 1900s. So yeah, so we're excited. We're excited that you guys are providing this, and we understand from Kimberly this is we're the first neighborhood that's going through this actual process. So it's a little bit of a learning curve, and I think it's been going swimmingly so far. So any questions?
Thank you. I was going to check to see if Christian, did you want to try your audio again?
I don't know, man. I don't know. It might be a bad idea.
It's up to you. Otherwise, I'm happy to also.
Yeah, the house I live in was built in 1931, and I feel like maybe that's my grasp on the technology level right now is up to 1931. Anything past that, I'm not handling it, man. I'm just not. There was a couple of things I did want to point out. We have a couple of named houses. I think it's great. I heard a story about one of them, and I kind of wanted to share that. So let me look it up here really quick. The Christensen House, Charles Miller House is also in our area. And the story goes is Charles Miller was he was this carpenter, right? And he built the house for his sweetheart, and she ran off with somebody else. And he goes, well, my sweetheart ran off with someone else. I don't need this house no more. And that's the story. I mean, I'm just picturing this guy back in the 1800s, I probably look like him actually. And I just sort of, it's neat, isn't it? I mean, it's really cool. And so I think that's another piece of it is that there's a lot of fun, cool stuff that we can celebrate in our neighborhood. And I didn't even think about doing this until I was riding my bicycle home from work and I saw Leah and her husband Robert walking their dog that's more of a horse than a dog, but it's great. So anyway, I'm rambling. I'm sorry. I'll shut up now. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Commissioners, does anyone have any questions? It's not for the applicants, for the public testimony.
Looks like Jessica's raising her hand.
Okay, Jessica, Commissioner Kurtman.
Yeah, first I just want to say you're definitely not rambling. You're talking to the right audience. So just wanted to put that out there. So thank you for sharing the story and your enthusiasm.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
We have
Why-
Commissioner Thomas and Commissioner Zimmerman as well. Sorry.
Oh, excellent. Commissioner Thomas.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I've been through the neighborhood and really appreciate the application. One thing I was not aware of was, the Herbert Hoover house, and very, well aware of the one in Newburgh. And so I started looking at that a little bit and saw the plaque that's that's on the ground. And definitely see why you put in a request for markers and toppers and some more elevated presence of that especially that one for Herbert Hoover. My question would be for you guys, like, why didn't you pick walking tour brochures? Because how am I going to find these resources if there's not some sort of walking tour brochure or driving brochure for you, for people to come explore that neighborhood on foot? Because you don't want to explore that neighborhood on in a car. I mean, maybe if you put a saddle on that dog/horse, that would be another good way to do it. But I would as someone who actively promotes walking tour maps, I would love to see one if you have one, and then that way you can tell those stories on that map. I mean, I wouldn't know the stories if they were just a couple markers, nor how to find the markers. So that's all I have.
I think that's a great suggestion. And one of the things that we're hoping is, as we're vitalizing our neighborhood association under Christian's enthusiasm, is that we'll be able to collect those stories and get more people involved. And since we are on the bikeway, we already do have signage and people come through here all the time. And so adding a walking tour brochure would be fantastic. And I would say that one of the other ideas that we've generated from just talking about this is that we were hoping to get some community bulletin boards. They cost about $400 each, and they're all weather bulletin boards that we could have at Highland School Park, possibly at our community garden near Hazel, and maybe somewhere on the bikeway that would have information on our meetings and events. We are going to be having a Halloween decoration contest this year, and also a holiday lights contest for the neighborhood, where they will win something small, and then also bragging rights with a lawn thing saying that they won. So anything like that. I mean, we were just kind of didn't want to be greedy. We just wanted to start with, the signs and getting kind of a buzz in the neighborhood and collecting those stories.
Thank you. Commissioner Zimmerman, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, it sounded like both of our speakers tonight from the neighborhood are pretty enthusiastic. They've done a lot of work for their learning about their own homes. Does it seem like there's a lot of groundswell of support from the rest of your neighbors that have older homes like yours that are making the effort to kind of learn more about them and have that same kind of enthusiasm? Does it seem like there's a lot of people who are kind of on board with this? Maybe not just folks with the association, but kind of the neighborhood at large?
Well, I have a big front porch and you will often see my husband and I and our very large dog/horse on the front porch. And so it's kind of a joke that if we go out on our front porch, we can't ever get off of it because there's so many people walking by, and then you talk to people. So people have, I think the only barrier that I've experienced so far is people not understanding the difference between heritage and historic. And they're worried about having a historic designation and not being able and having restrictions. And so I think if we are awarded the designation, probably, one of our first things, we're talking about putting out a mailer and some other things to get activity on our Facebook page, and also more people to come to our meetings via Zoom or live, is to just explain what it is. and then ask for those stories. Like, oh, what do you know about your house? And do you know how to find out information about your house if you're interested? And maybe even find somebody who is a craftsperson in the Highland neighborhood to make signs like the one that's on my house. So people that are walking by can say, oh, well, this one was built in, 1931, like Christian's house, or, mine that's 1920, or, oh, wow, this is a perfect post-war, 1943 or something like that. So I think it would, yeah, people are really interested. They're just not sure what it is yet.
Got it. Yeah, thank you.
Also, if I can speak to that just as well, one of the things that I thought would be really good for our neighborhood is we want to increase engagement. I mean, I guess that's my personal goal. I don't know if that's but I really trying to drive engagement, right? I want people to be proud of where they live, and when they do, little things. Some people make big gestures, but oftentimes you mow your weeds a little bit more often, or something like that. And those little incremental steps, they just grow, and you put them all together and you've gone a mile, and you just don't even realize it because they're incremental, and before you know it, it's there. So a lot of people are still like to they're in their homes with the COVID, but we do have a very walkable area. I'm sure all you guys know, and people get out and go for walks all the time. I do. We cultivate our alleyways, actually, because less cars, and people walk through the alleyways a lot more. And so we've got like sunflowers back there and all sorts of cool stuff. So I don't know, it's just one of the things where I felt like you're going to get more engagement because of the pride that this brings, and it's just going to snowball on itself. And I think that this is a really good step number one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Fuller, I see you have a hand raised.
I do. I have I guess it's kind of an open question to this, to y'all of this neighborhood. You're talking about increasing interest and engagement, and one of the things that really helps people pick up on interest and engagement historically is if they can kind of see themselves or see people that they knew in the past, and whether that be actually family members or people that they can relate to. So I guess the open question then here is, what kind of things can you point to in this neighborhood to help promote ideas of equity and diversity? You've what kind, you've got the home of a president, of a childhood home of a president here, right? But in this neighborhood that appears to have some working class past, what kind of places, excuse my dog, what kind of places are here that represent Salem's historic past in terms of women and people of color? These are things that could be really helpful for you in promoting interest in people that aren't just into presidential history and things like that. If they can see aspects of themselves in that past. And I don't necessarily expect an answer, but it's one that I kind of present to y'all as leaders of this neighborhood organization.
Now, you know what? I agree with that. Actually, I don't know. I had this whole big thing written out because this area does have a very diverse background, and we do have a lot of the, it used to be Cannery Row, and it still kind of is, and there's a piece of that culture, that history that you're talking about, the working class background. You're absolutely right, and I think that's fantastic. I actually was going to talk a little bit about The Color of Law. I'm not sure if you've read the book, but yeah, it's about redlining districts and things like that, and just sort of how racism was written into the law, and how it kind of still is there. If you look deep enough, you can still find it. Anyway, but it's specific to city codes and sort of how we built our cities and where we pushed our resources and where we kind of held back on those. And so I think you're absolutely right. I know that there's a very rich history here of let's just say non-white, there's a non-white culture history here. Absolutely. Learning more about that and publishing that would be outstanding. I would love to do that. That'd be fantastic.
Well, my
Yeah.
husband is the only probably Jamaican immigrant on the street. So, so if anyone wants a taste of Jamaica, you can, come over to Maple Avenue.
Thank you, everyone. So I will, I think we've had a great discussion, heard a lot from commissioners as well as our the two folks that joined us tonight. And as you recall, during staff report, Kimberly noted that we have different choices for action tonight, which I believe are, of course, we could do no action, or we could put this off as a topic to talk about again in the future. We can decide to designate tonight, as well as we could decide to decline tonight. So with that, and also I can't help myself, but it's not an ex parte, but I will mention, I happen to be from a small town where Herbert Hoover childhood home was. So if there's any talk about this being like his childhood home, that's going to be a little tough for me. But anyway, with that, I will ask if we can have a motion.
I move to approve the designation of the Highland neighborhood.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. To your motion, Commissioner French.
I think this is a great thing that's happening in Salem. I wish we had more people that were as enthusiastic and interested as you guys, because as much as I'm sure everyone on the commission would love to walk around and designate things, we can't get out there and do every neighborhood. So but thank you so much for your time and energy in doing this on your own, and anything we can do to help will be great.
Are there other discussion?
I was just going to kind of agree with what Commissioner French said. It's really refreshing to see that kind of enthusiasm from folks trying to, kind of bring more awareness about their neighborhood and learn more about the houses that surround them and kind of get to know their neighbors better. So I think it's a great opportunity for neighborhoods throughout Salem to do, and it's nice to see folks stepping up to really make their neighborhood more familiar to their neighbors, as well as people who come and visit it. So I think it's just great.
Yeah, and I will also say that there's can't put it any better than that. It's exciting to see this engagement, and it's both sort of the informal, clearly just having neighborhood in a sort of lowercase n neighborhood relationships and community that you have described, as well as pursuing things such as this designation and thinking about sort of more organized things that you can do. So I'm pretty excited about it and glad you brought it to us tonight. With that, I'll call for a vote on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? With that, the motion passes.
Great.
Congratulations. I think it's awesome.
So you'll receive a letter probably next week, Christian and Leah, and then we'll follow up with what next steps are.
Thank you, guys. This is exciting.
Yes. Thank you.
We're so excited. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
That brings us to our next action item, which is State Library National Register nomination. I believe we have staff report on this, and that's all. So I will turn to Kimberly for staff report, please.
Hi. Yes. So the City of Salem, which is a certified local government, is one of the stakeholders. The Oregon State Historic Preservation Office is requesting input from on the nomination of the State Library to the National Register. The SHPOs have provided the Salem HLC an evaluation sheet for the nomination and is requesting comments regarding whether the applicant has made the case for designation. The proposed nomination will be considered on October 22nd at the State Advisory Committee on Historic Preservation, which will be online if you want to go. And they'll make a recommendation to the National Park Service about listing on the National Register. So the location, the Oregon State Library, is located at 250 Winter Street Northeast. The applicant, Sarah Baker Monroe, has prepared the nomination for the State Library on behalf of Restore Oregon with funding from the Oregon State Historic Preservation Office. She's also prepared the multiple property listing Oregon New Deal resources from the PWA and WPA 1933 to 1943 MPD. I'm just going to give you a snippet of the historic documents. You did, I believe, receive a link to both documents with the full nomination and also the MPD. I like this sketch. It's a sketch of the State Library prior to its construction by L.H. Hutchinson. I think it's an OHS document. This picture just kind of makes me sad, but it does capture a snippet of time. It shows the Cook Patton House in front of the east facade of the library as it's under construction, and it can give you a sense of the grandeur of the homes that were demolished when the Capitol was reoriented and the associated buildings that you see now were built on the Capitol Mall. Here you can see some of the character defining features of the library. The lower right is one of those marble carvings by sculptor Gabriel Lavar. It's kind of hard to see there on the back wall. The upper left is a carving on the east facade, which I think is pretty cool. It's a seal showing a Mission printing press. And the upper right is, you can see the balcony with the typical carvings on the base featuring, I believe it's an open book with a tree. So I'm going to go through the items that SHPO has asked us to evaluate. First, integrity. And integrity, it doesn't mean like your personal character. If you're not familiar with this term, it's an evaluation of how many alterations the structure has undergone and whether a majority of the original design and character defining features are still intact. So the State Library has undergone some alterations to both the exterior and the interior, which include relocating the loading dock, the addition of access ramps, and some updates to the interior work areas. However, overall, the original form and character defining features of the building and its setting have not been significantly altered. So it does retain enough integrity to convey its original significance. So staff would recommend the Landmarks Commission find that the State Library meets this criteria for integrity for listing, and the preparer has done an adequate job in that describing the character. So the next item is the description. So the description is a written, as you would imagine, if you looked at the nomination, a thorough written description of both the exterior and the interior of the Oregon State Library. The building was completed in 1939 in the modernist or stripped classical style. It was designed by the same architects that did the Capitol building and constructed about that same time. Character defining features include the symmetrical design with traditional proportions and those cool carvings by Gabriel Lavar and some Art Deco ornamentation that embellish both the exterior and the interior. And so overall, I believe the preparer has done a thorough job in describing the exterior and the interior. However, while a complete listing of the alterations is included, it would be more helpful to have a listing of the contributing and non-contributing features. I think that would strengthen the nomination. So moving on to significance and context. So this was nominated under that MPD multiple property document, which provides the framework for making the case for significance. I honestly, some people hate MPDs. I really like them because they make it very clear, very straightforward. So I'm going to go through those criteria that are identified in that MPD. So the first one is, was the nominated property built within that chronological period of significance for the New Deal between 1933 and 1943, and it was built in 1939, so it clearly meets that requirement. The second one is related to integrity, which we kind of already talked about. The applicant has demonstrated that while there have been minimal alterations, overall the State Library does retain significant integrity and is clearly connected to the other buildings on the Capitol Mall. And the next one, does the nominated property meet specific registration requirements for Criterion A for the education property type and the library sub-property type? So yes, the applicant has demonstrated that the State Library is unique as the only library that has provided services to all residents of Oregon during the period of significance. And then last, does the nominated property meet specific registration requirements for Criterion C for New Deal buildings? This was a White House and Church. They were the architects. Again, they were worked on the Capitol as well as this building. And the applicant has demonstrated that this property displays a high level of craftsmanship and reflects those character defining features, conveying this architectural design from the New Deal period. So staff recommends the Landmarks Commission find that it does meet those criteria. So your alternatives are quite similar to your last decision that you have to make. You're not required to do anything. You don't have any regulatory responsibility here. So you don't have to make a comment. However, should you wish to write a letter of support, you can do so. You can direct staff to write a letter that will be sent to the State Historic Preservation Office to be then forwarded to the SACHP that they can consider as part of their evaluation and recommendation. Alternatively, you could ask that staff draft a letter of support, but ask for a little bit additional clarification, or if you had some additional clarification or comments of your own, we can add that. Or you can choose to direct staff to draft a letter of opposition saying it shouldn't be listed. I think that's it. That concludes my staff report, so I'll stop sharing again.
Thank you, Kimberly. Before we entertain a motion and discuss, does anyone have additional questions for staff? Hearing none and seeing none, I will call for a motion.
I move to instruct staff to write a letter of support of the nomination, with the caveat that we think noting character defining features will strengthen the nomination.
This is Patty. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner French, second from Commissioner Mulvihill, to create a letter with the additional elements. Would we like to discuss? To your motion, Commissioner French.
I think this is great. I think one by one, we're gonna get the entire Capitol Mall listed. It's gonna take us 100 years, but we're gonna do it. I really wish they would just do a district, but we'll get there eventually. I think this is a great property. The State Library is beautiful. If anyone's ever been in it, it's really gorgeous. It's very sweaty because it's all marble, but it's beautiful. And I'm really glad to see at least some of the state agencies downtown listing their buildings, since we can't get them all.
Thank you. Commissioner Ponce, I see a hand raised.
Yes.
Thank you. I just want to express my I guess, support for this nomination. I think that building is fantastic and deserves all the recognition it can get. It's one of the neatest buildings on the mall, you know, and there's others, but it's special, and I'm happy to see this and glad that it's being brought forward.
Thank you. Commissioner Mulvihill.
I just wanted to give my support, especially if we're going to keep talking, because I have to get off. I have a new grandbaby that was born today, and I'm going to go FaceTime with them. So I support it. If you can't vote, if I don't vote, I'm sorry, but it's starting at 6:45, and she takes precedence over all of you in this meeting. So I will see you all later, but it has my support.
Congratulations.
Thank you, and congratulations. Don't see any other hands raised. Just interrupt me if you have if someone else would like to add. But I will also comment. It's wonderful to see nominations of any of the buildings down there. I was fortunate enough to work on the Capitol Mall and spend lots of time down there ever since I moved to Salem. And it's really pretty incredible. Not just the buildings, but also sort of how we have, as staff report noted, it's sad when you can see some of the pictures of what was there. But due to the Capitol and those buildings kind of all being built at the time, you kind of have this cohesive mall and just sort of little Capitol complex that you don't have everywhere. It's pretty incredible. And it's also Art Deco, which you don't have in every capital city. So it's just really great to see continued designations and continue recognition of the resources. And I would agree with Commissioner Friend, should be even better if we could have a district for all of these, but I would be in full support of us having a letter of support. With that, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? The motion passes.
I have a quick question for Tom. Since Patty expressed support of the motion and it wasn't changed after she left, do I still note that as she voted yes or as an absent?
She's an absent.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have another action item, the Mill Creek Correctional Facility proposed mitigation. This commission has talked about this pretty recently, but we have an update from staff. So staff presentation, please.
Hello again. So this, the applicant, the Oregon State Department of Corrections, is proposing to sell the Mill Creek Correctional Facility into private ownership. I think a few months ago, you guys heard Hillcrest. I think that was the one. And so this process should be familiar to you. So ORS 358653 requires that the Department of Corrections consult with the Oregon SHPO to consider effects of this undertaking. Oh, wait, do we need to ask for? Yes, Jamie's raising her hand. Sorry, I jumped in. So yeah, Carol, you need to ask for ex parte. Yeah. Or I mean, sorry, conflict.
My apologies. Yeah. Because I was looking at just generic action items, not public hearings, but it's okay. Prior to, are there any commissioners that would like to share any ex parte or conflicts of interest?
Yeah, Commissioner French, I will have to recuse myself from participating in this conversation. I am one of the reviewers for this at the State Historic Preservation Office and am on one side of the table negotiating the MOA. So good luck, everyone.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, so jumping, was that everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to jump back in. Okay. So the SHPO concurred that Mill Creek is currently eligible for listing on the National Register and further concludes that the proposed sale into private ownership will constitute an adverse effect. And so in order to develop, and so mitigation is required. And so in order to develop that mitigation, the applicant is required to obtain input from relevant stakeholders. So the city of Salem, a certified local government, is one of the stakeholders. So this is something that we've done before. So just to orient you, this facility is located at 5465 Turner Road Southeast. A little bit of the history: the Mill Creek Correctional Facility was originally constructed in 1891 as the Oregon Reform School. In 1929, it was reconstructed as the Farm Annex or State Training School for the Oregon State Penitentiary. In 1992, the Mill Creek Correctional Facility became part of the Santiam Correctional Institution, a minimum security work camp, providing inmate labor to the Oregon Department of Corrections and other state and local agencies. And I don't know if I talked about this before, but in January 2021, Governor Brown utilized, I believe it was her executive authority, to direct the Oregon Department of Corrections to close 3 Oregon prisons by July 2022. I think Tracy, who's here from DOC, can confirm whether that's correct. And it was to reduce operation costs and invest more in program areas that prevent incarceration. Okay, so I just want to remind you, I did go over this with that other case in June, but we do have a section of code, Salem Revised Code 230082, Table 230-5, which outlines appropriate level of mitigation that public agencies can offer based upon the activity proposed. In this case, the proposed undertaking is a change in ownership, so from public to private, and no specific physical alterations are proposed. Therefore, no corresponding level of effect can clearly be identified. However, given that the resource will no longer be subject to this section due to the change from public to private ownership, the private property owner would potentially be able to proceed with demolition of any of the eligible resources without any additional input from the City of Salem or the Landmarks Commission. So like we talked about before, it could be commensurate to a level 3 adverse effect, and therefore we've got some mitigation identified in that table, which includes building documentation, on-site interpretation, and also a donation to our trust fund. And the applicant has proposed documentation of the resources on the site, development of some educational materials, but the HLC might consider whether or not it would be appropriate to recommend DOC consider some on-site interpretation or donating funds to the Historic Preservation Trust Fund, where we could develop some interpretation. And then one other thing, there are a significant number of known archaeological sites within this project area. So staff would recommend the Landmarks Commission request that DOC work with SHPO to add some language to stipulation D, which is that archaeological information and obligation section, requiring that the DOC notify the new owner that the property does contain known archaeological sites and that any ground disturbing activity would require a permit per ORS 390235. And again, options. So HLC doesn't have any regulatory authority here. So you have the following alternatives. You can choose to take no action, or you can choose to direct staff to write a letter that would be signed by the acting chair, either in support, general support as is, general support with some additional recommendations as I previously discussed, or a letter in opposition. So that concludes the staff report. I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you, Kimberly.
And Tracy.
Oh, sorry. That's on the other script. Tracy, would the as the applicant, would you like to provide some comment as well?
I think that was a great presentation. My name is Tracy Wilder. I'm the real property manager for the Oregon Department of Corrections. My work address is 3601 State Street, Salem, Oregon 97301. I don't know that I have anything to add. I'm here to answer any questions if you have them regarding the property or the process that we're working through.
Thank you, Tracy. So commissioners, I will ask that if you have questions for Tracy or staff prior to motion, now is the time. I see some hands, lots of hands. I will start with Commissioner Zimmerman.
Hi, I was just curious, how big of a property are we talking here that the state's looking to sell? Is it just primarily around that specific correctional institution, or is it more of some of the open land that surrounds that area?
That's a great question. The tax lot, we're seeking to surplus the entire tax lot, which consists of 390.5 acres of land. So it's land on either side of the creek, as well as the institution, and about 100 acres that is across the street. So.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fuller.
I have a question that may be more for staff than Tracy. Is that still okay? Cool.
Yep.
So in looking at some of these additional mitigations, the notion of like on-site interpretation seems like it could be a really effective means of conveying this to people who may come into whatever this place becomes. You know, and if we've got a bunch of local history here, I mean, if there's going to be any kind of interpretation, I doubt that like a celebratory note of, hey, there was a prison here, you know, is going to be something that is going to be really what we'd be shooting for. But what would be, I suppose, the means of adding recommendations to the mitigation plan? You know, because not everyone is going to check the Oregon Encyclopedia. Not everyone's going to find where these oral histories are being collected, that kind of a thing.
Right. So the beauty of this actually is that you don't have any regulatory authority. You can just direct staff to include that in the letter that the Department of Corrections, Tracy and her team work with the SHPO to discuss potential ideas and the feasibility of doing that. And if it makes sense for them to work it into their MOA, great. If it doesn't, then, I mean, that's their process, and it's too bad Jamie's recused herself. Otherwise she could talk about it, but that's kind of what that's supposed to look like. And that's the reason for them reaching out and asking for input, is that, you know, they've been talking to each other and have their own ideas. And this is a way to get additional ideas. But at the end of the day, they'll work out an MOA that works for them.
Wonderful. Is that something that I do now, or when we have a motion?
Yeah, it would be now. You would just direct, well, it would be, you would get the consensus of the rest of the commission to add that to the letter, and then make a motion, and then we would draft a letter, and then acting chair would sign it.
Wonderful. Okay.
And I see some other hands up. I would suggest, if when we have a motion to have a letter, that we could start that discussion. And if we have things we want to add in, it could be in the motion, but we can also, in our discussion, we can amend to that, I believe. So, Commissioner Kurdeman.
Can you, and I apologize if this was clearly stated in your report, Kimberly, but can you clarify what exactly is being mitigated here? We've talked about a couple of resources that are on the property itself, but what exactly, because I mean, obviously we can't talk about mitigation until we know what we're mitigating for. So what is the resource that is going to be impacted? Like, what are the resources we've identified that are going to be impacted that the mitigation is tailored towards.
Right. So that 390.5 acres, which is the boundary. And if you do you have the draft MOA, which I think was sent as part of the packet, you can look through where it defines that at the beginning of the preamble thing. But essentially it's, as I understand it, both the above ground buildings and any archaeological sites, which of course they don't describe in great detail, that are potentially eligible. So because it's going out of public ownership into private ownership, and as you know, the laws are different between public and private relating to eligible resources, that's where the determination of adverse effect was. So do you have that MOA in front of you? Okay. Does that help answer your question?
Partly, I do. I looked it over a while ago, so I'm trying to skim it. I have a follow-up question, but I'm trying to skim it to see if it's in the MOA. So move on to other questions for now.
Kimberly, can I address that?
Of course.
Oh, okay. So the building that was Mill Creek Correctional Facility, the institution, is eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. It was, don't quote me, I don't have it in front of me, and there's a debate of how old it is, but it was built in the early 1900s. It was originally a home for wayward boys. I don't like that term, but wayward boys. And it burned down, and then it became a prison. So it's close to, depending on who you ask, at least 100 years old, if that helps.
Yeah, thank you.
I can come back to you too, Commissioner Kurtterman. But Commissioner Thomas, you have a hand raised.
Yes, thank you. A couple of questions, probably one for the applicant and one for staff. Just real quickly for staff, the public agency is supposed to donate 0.1%. You noted here that there's no proposal to donate funds. So this would be Department of Corrections that makes this donation. And yeah, correct. That's
correct. Yes.
Okay.
And typically it would be earmarked for something specific. So for example, if they didn't have capacity to follow through on interpretation or something, that would be, it wouldn't just be here's my.
Got it. And that was my next question. Like what are those funds that go to the Historic Preservation Trust used for? And you're saying that they're earmarked for something specific, and it would be relative to the site, or it could be used to
yes, it should. I mean, it should be related. And again, this would be up to SHPO and Department of Corrections, related to some form of mitigation that would educate about the site, either on site or in some other fashion.
Okay. And then the question for the applicant, what is the impetus for this sale to private ownership, and what would you estimate 0.1% of that market value would be?
So as Kimberly stated, the governor directed the Department of Corrections to close 3 institutions. So we moved all the AICs that were there at the end of June and have been rating it for sale. And the fair market value is, I believe, $12.5 million, according to the appraisal for the 390.5 acres. And what is that?
So 125,000, I think.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right.
This would be the 0.1. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, those are all my questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Ponce, you've had your hand raised.
So kind of a follow up to that as well, with the financial donation being a mitigation. When it changes hands, would the money, or would there be a legal aspect or avenue to have that resource back on the property should the private owner desire not to have something, or make it less obvious than what the state would like or what the commission would like, to make sure that that resource or the funds for the resource are, placed in an area that has visibility. Maybe a caveat to the agreement. I don't know.
Thank you. And Commissioner Kurtman, did you have you had hands up? Okay, Commissioner Kurtman, do you have a follow-up or additional question or comment?
Yeah, I think it's at this point in time with where the MOA is and what our what power we don't have here, but I just want to make a statement that it's I have a little bit of a concern for the archaeological sites that are on the property and the lack of mitigation in the MOA for those sites. Typically, I know when some of these, sorry, my kid is chattering. For properties that are going into private ownership or moving ownership where it's being seen as an adverse impact, there's typically something in an MOA that says that some sort of effort will be made to further explore what exactly is being impacted with the archaeological sites in particular. Not to say that that needs to be done beforehand, but almost like a statement saying that like a due diligence will be done in recognition that the sites that are known are not the only sites that could be on the property, and that the whole property itself is extremely high probability area. So I just wanted to make that statement that's kind of what was bugging me about the mitigation and what exactly are we mitigating for. It's difficult to tell exactly what is going to be adversely affected on the property with these archaeological sites. And it's surprising how much we know on this property for not investigating as much as we do today for properties around Salem. So anyways, I just want to make that statement that it's I just have some concerns with that.
Thank you. So are there other questions or comments from the commissioners before I call for a motion? I'm seeing and hearing none. I would just like to say that as far as things that for this action item, of course, we can do no action, or we can call for a motion for staff to create a letter. And as came up through, I think when I was responding to Commissioner Fuller, if there are items in the letter or topics, I think we can say, as we discussed, but I think that, but we need to be clear in our discussion or in our motion now, if there are items that we want to ask staff to address. To that end, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we ask staff to write a letter and included in some of our new mitigation concerns for the archaeological resources on the property and for a hopefully more interpretive on-site for more on-site interpretation. Essentially that recommending further mitigation and a clearer explanation of what needs to be mitigated.
Before I ask for a second, to clarify, so you'd be calling for a motion for a letter, and that would include recommendations the commission discussed for interpretation or further mitigation.
Yes,
Is that accurate?
that is accurate.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, and we'll open discussion. To your motion, Commissioner Fuller.
Much as we've been talking about, there seem to be a lot of unknowns about this particularly large piece of property, and that there may be more under the surface than we are aware of, that who knows exactly what this property is going to become, and that having further resources available to help continue the appropriate interpretation of this piece of land, I think would be absolutely helpful, and if not even necessary, to accurately kind of convey its history.
Thank you. Other commissioners that would like to discuss the motion?
Yeah, this is Kelly. I just wanted, Commissioner Thomas. I wanted to clarify and make sure, because the motion was rather general, that that it would include a proposal to donate funds to the city of Salem in alignment with SRC 230.082. In addition to that, ensure that the new owner is notified that any ground disturbing activity requires an archaeological permit per ORS 390.235. Just want to ensure, I heard loud and clear that on-site interpretation would be part of that additional stipulation, but I just wanted to clarify that those two would be included, and if not, then an amended motion might be in order. So.
That is definitely noted, and just as a point of order, since this is an action item, but not a land use design review public hearing, for, I guess this would be for the attorney or possibly Lisa. Do we need to have an amendment to clarify that, or is us just having our motion that we're having these recommendations and then having this discussion sufficient?
I was waiting for Tom to unmute. Oh, he was waiting for me to unmute. Okay, Tom.
No, I wasn't. I was fumbling with the phone.
Okay,
the computer.
go for it, Tom.
I think what would need to happen is there would need to be a motion to amend. Someone would have to second that motion, vote on the motion to amend, and then go forward with the amended motion.
Okay.
So
makes sense to me. Thank you.
Sure.
So if I can just go ahead and amend the motion to ensure that we include, should I go ahead and do that?
Well, I'm going to ask if there's other, I'm going to ask for a little more discussion before we have an amendment. So while we still discuss the original motion, which is recommending this letter, including things that we discussed tonight and which mentioning interpretation for the mitigation, are there other comments on either that or to Commissioner Kelly's point, Commissioner Thomas's point, are there other things that we might want to amend to make sure are clear?
This is
We
Commissioner
can do it all at
Kerman.
once. Yes.
And yeah, maybe to clarify that the motion for the letter is a letter of support with
Oh, sorry, yeah.
with it sounds like the recommendations, additions that the city staff has recommended, in addition to some other elements, as Commissioner Fuller had mentioned. And I also just want to clarify that I'm not expecting or recommending by any means that the entire property be excavated so that we can fully understand the archaeological material and record. That is substantially expensive and destructive. So it's more of including language in the MOA that recognizes not just the known archaeological sites, but just that it's a high potential area and that care should be taken. I have a question for something that Commissioner Thomas mentioned. He said any ground disturbing activity should have an archaeological permit based on the law he read off. That's just within known sites though, correct? Or is this referencing something else that's not coming to mind?
No, it's known sites. Cool.
Okay, so it's not,
that was the intention.
Yeah. Okay, just wanted to clarify. So it's not just all ground disturbing activities within the tax lot, it's disturbing activities within the known site locations. Yeah, and that makes more sense in my head. Thank you.
Thank you. Does somebody have their hand raised? But I saw somebody else.
I kept raising and lowering mine, so it might have been me you were seeing.
Yeah, and I apologize the way that I do these meetings. I can't see everyone at the same time. Okay, so I would, I guess, ask if there are, if Commissioner Thomas would like to make a motion to amend, as you were beginning to say before.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to amend the motion on the floor to ensure that 0.1% of the estimated market value of the resource is donated to the city's Historic Preservation Trust Fund in accordance with SR, well, not in accordance, but similar to SRC 230.082, and that the DOC notify the new owner that the property contains the known archaeological sites, that any ground disturbing activity near them would require a archaeological permit per ORS 39235. And let's see, that Jessica, I can't really formulate exactly what Jessica was saying in terms of her additional mitigation. So
just that to include stronger language that would protect future damages to unknown archaeological resources within the property. So I leave it generalized enough like that, that hopefully it just kind of triggers the discussion amongst the folks that are working on the MOA.
So I'll take that as a friendly addition
Nudge.
to the amendment. How's that?
Thank you. Do I have a second for the motion?
I will second the motion.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to amend, and I'll do my best summary of the statement on the floor, but is that we are for a letter of support, which will include recommendations commission discussed, such as elements for interpretation, further mitigation, and ensuring the 1% in accordance with, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't take notes quickly enough. Is there any discussion on the motion to amend the original motion?
Thank you for your clarification, Commissioner Thomas and Commissioner Kurtman. It's very helpful. Appreciate that.
Hearing no other or seeing no other hands, I'll call for a vote to amend the original motion as we just described. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed say nay.
I am actually going to call for a roll call just because we do have an abstention, just for clarity of the record. Sorry.
Perfect.
So Commissioner Cottingham,
Aye.
Commissioner Kurtman,
Aye.
Commissioner Fuller,
Aye.
Commissioner Pont,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Commissioner Zimmerman,
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Abstain.
Thank you.
With the,
Tom
we
has his
have
hand up
a
now.
hand up from our council.
So this is in aid of staff. Does staff have, Zachary, do you have an understanding of what now the motion, how the motion reads and what's being about to be voted on?
I can read off what I have written.
Okay.
So I have the motion is currently, after the amendment, is to direct staff to write a letter in support, including additional mitigation for archaeological resources and on-site interpretation, and a clear explanation of what resources are being mitigated. It'll also contain a recommendation for a donation of 0.1% of the sale price to the City of Salem's historic preservation program, and permits to be required for any ground disturbing activity in known archaeological sites, and includes stronger language to protect any future discovered archaeological sites, which is grammatically terrible, but that's the general feel of the motion right now.
Okay. Do folks feel like that correctly captures what's before them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Zachary. Good job.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I'm just checking something. Okay. So we just had the motion reread. So with that, I will now call for a vote on the motion as amended. Why don't we do this by roll call as well?
Okay. Commissioner Cottingham?
Aye.
Commissioner Kurtman? No, I'll come back to Commissioner Kurtman. Commissioner Fuller?
Aye.
Commissioner Kurtman, I see you're back.
Aye. Apologies, dealing with a potty training kid.
Commissioner Pont?
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Zimmerman?
Aye.
And Commissioner French? I couldn't hear you. Can you?
Commissioner French, I think removed herself.
Wonderful, thank you. The motion passes.
All right. Oh, yeah, that's my part. Gavel.
Oh, Thomas.
I need like a gavel thing on Zoom. It should have a reaction. Gavel.
Oh, did our attorney have a question, or is he?
I just wanted to make sure that Kimberly, you had everything you needed to be able to help draft the motion.
I did. I do.
Letter? Okay.
The letter.
The letter. Sorry.
Yes, it's fine. Yes.
Okay. Good.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, bye.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Tracy. Is she still here?
Yes, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thanks for sticking with us.
Yes, thank you, everyone. We still have another action item, some discussion items, and historic preservation report. I'd like to keep us moving, but I'd also just like since we've been going for about 2 hours, to reach out to see if anyone would like to take a short break.
I can be fast.
I'll take a break.
Take a quick break.
Yes, please.
Quick break.
Okay. All right, let's take a
5
quick
minutes.
break. Yeah, 5 minutes. Thank you, everyone.
I feel really bad for you, Carol, like really
Did a
putting
good
you
job.
through this tonight.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I'd say
It's
Schwartz
the
covers you.
the
Just tell her that
beauty,
it covers you.
the thing about Zoom or Teams or whatever. I mean, how much we do it all day and stuff, but it's like how much is going on in the background. I think it's been pretty quiet on your end from me, but like my kids are not little and cute anymore. It's like sounds like
Not
a
like
frat
just
party in the other room. They're like really, really rowdy elementary school boys. And basically it's like they have to eat dinner before the meeting starts, and then they can just like play Nintendo or do whatever they want as long as they don't come in here. So
It's also a lot though to manage like the Zoom with the hands, and then usually
Yeah.
Kimberly or Zach is texting you, reminding you things, and then you've got your scripts you're trying to read from.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. When I
My
can't,
headphones are about to die, so I have to go switch to wired headphones. Do not start the meeting without me.
but we won't. We wouldn't dream
where are
of
you
it.
going? What do you say?
He needs his headphones. His headphones are. He needs to switch
Oh.
She's
headphones.
kidding. Yeah, sorry for that quick runoff, but Marcus was sitting on my bed and said, okay, go poop. And so it was drop everything and run him to the bathroom. So
Great. Good
and
job.
then, and
Good
then
job.
hearing mom help, like, okay, running back to the bathroom.
Still success though, I hope. Good. Good. Well, I don't know. I can't talk about anything. I just want to talk about Archaeology Month, but Jessica, where'd she go?
sorry I couldn't be more help on that last one.
Yeah, just-
Kimberly.
I'm hoping that Jamie and Jessica could put your heads together and do some sort of really cool. Well, I did want to do something in person, but we're not going to do that. So I don't even know, like something. Did you do something for the roadshow, like online, like something that's already done that we could redo? No, you're shaking your head. No. Jamie, are you doing your postcardy thing again?
No,
Don't-
our budget is, well, we should probably talk about this later, but our budget is still cut 30% at this point.
No.
We still haven't hired all our staff.
So Jessica, you could just do what you did last year if you want. I don't know.
Might do something like that. I emailed you, Kimberly, with some
Oh, you did.
times to meet next week.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I said for 30 minutes, but feel free to make that an hour if you want.
I'm going to invite you, Jamie, too, as well for our archaeology. She's ignoring me. You're like, what? I'll still invite you, but you can see if you can come.
When is it, Kimberly?
I don't know. I haven't made a time yet. So you will look at, what's your schedule next week? Terrible.
Week. Oh, that's funny.
So Jessica, I'm going to get you 2 times, one for ODOT stuff and one for
Sounds good.
Archaeology Month. How about in Tuesday afternoon between 12 and 4?
When?
Tuesday.
Busy.
Thursday.
2 and 4, you said?
Between 8 and 12 or 3 to 4 Thursday.
That works.
Which window?
Both work actually. Thursday
What?
is dead for me.
Shocking. Cool beans.
Cool. Make
Not
it.
that if you don't schedule it in the next hour, it's not going to fill up.
Oh my goodness, I have to do it right now. Good Lord.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. And try, let's do something fun. Think of something fun.
Okay. Order.
Order. I'm gonna jump in and
Zach,
I don't know if he's back. Zach, are you back? I will text him. What's he do? Where'd he go?
So I know that people have cameras off and things like that, if people are back or not. As long as Zach is here, I just saw him wave.
Yeah.
I'm gonna end our recess, if you will. So I'm gonna end our break and we'll continue on. If anyone is joining back in, that's okay. And I will now go to action item D, SHPO Oregon Heritage.
Yay.
And I'll ask for a staff report.
Great, thank you.
Please.
So the Oregon Heritage is interested in applying for a Building Infrastructure and Communities FEMA grant. It's a new grant to help fund disaster resilience planning for 3 to 5 Oregon CLGs that are also active designated heritage all-star communities, and City of Salem is both. And so that's what you're going to need to, the last action item, you need to decide whether you want to participate. And what that means is, yay, one more letter to write. Hopefully it won't be as hard as the last one, right? So a little bit about this. So Oregon Heritage developed a model, Oregon Community Disaster Resilience Plan for heritage resources in partnership with the University of Oregon's Institute for Policy Research and Engagement. And in 2020, they tested this in partnership with the city of Cottage Grove. They were the very first community. They worked with the heritage organizations in the city to develop and adopt a plan. And in 2021, Oregon Heritage received an AASLH Leadership in History Award for this plan and their associated guidebook. So it's pretty cool. I just want to mention that in our adopted work plan for 2023 already, we do have an action item number 23, which is to support development of a citywide cultural heritage strategic master plan. And so development of this disaster resilience plan could be a really significant component of that plan. So something we're already going to try to do in support of the work the nonprofits are doing. A little bit more about the grant itself. So it is through FEMA. The grant period would be from fall 2022 through summer of 2023. Oregon Heritage and the University of Oregon's Institute for Policy Research and Engagement, they would manage the grant and provide the staff support for development of the plan. So other than a minor amount of both staff time and HLC time, we would need at least one volunteer from the HLC to work on this. There are no hard costs associated with the project for the City of Salem. And staff would actually recommend that the Salem Culture and Heritage Forum be the lead on this project, since they're the organization that's the Heritage All-Star organization for the city. So again, similar to your other decisions you've had to make tonight, you don't have to do anything. You can decide not to take any action, but that would really look like declining participating in this project. You can choose to ask for additional information. We can reach back out to Heritage staff if you have if you have more questions, or you can direct staff to draft a letter of support, which means that you would be interested in participating in the project. So that concludes the staff report.
Thank you, Kimberly. I don't think there's any public comment, but tonight, you never know. So at this point, we will open discussion with, this is not to a motion yet, but if there's any questions for staff before we have a motion.
Before we start with that, can I declare ex parte contact?
Yes.
I'm not going to recuse myself this time because this is not my program and
Yes.
it's not something that I work with, but the Oregon Heritage is the division that I work for. This is a program that's undertaken by Outreach, so I don't participate in it, but I know about it and I know about the Cottage Grove plan and I know about all the work that's been happening. So put that out there.
Thank you. Anything else, either in that category, but also or questions or more information from staff?
I'd like to throw this out there too. I don't think it's a conflict, but maybe Thomas can help me or something. But just thinking disaster relief and FEMA and getting funds from FEMA. I'm currently and actively working on the wildfire disaster relief cleanup with FEMA and through my job at ODOT. And I don't know if that would conflict with applying or being involved with applying for funds from FEMA on that.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Do you believe that if FEMA were to give money to the city, that would somehow negatively impact your project? Would there be less money available for the monies that you're seeking? Does the money come out of the same pot?
No, it wouldn't affect the current project I'm working on.
Then I don't think there would be any conflict in that situation.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Others? Questions, comments, potential conflicts or ex partes?
I'll provide a comment then. I did
please.
see some of the work that went into the Cottage Grove plan and some of the products that came out of it. And I think it would be a really great resource for Salem if we could be selected, because it will help kind of align the preservation values of the city and get all of the partners together to decide what is kind of most important and how we're going to address things. Fires were burning close to Salem last year. They're going to keep getting close. So I think it's a really critical thing, and it can also assist us with flooding. And it's not just fire, it's flooding, earthquake, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a really neat idea, and I think it's really cool that Oregon Heritage is doing this. I didn't know they were doing this, so.
I'd like to piggyback off of that, and not just fires close to Salem last year, but like last week. And that was really crazy to see like 12 fire trucks zip by my house, all going in the same direction. But also the ice storm too no, it wasn't last year. Was that earlier this year? Oh my word.
February.
As long as this year. But anyways, yeah, so I think we've got a lot of support for wanting to be prepared better for future disasters that will inevitably come.
All right, thank you. So I see a hand up from Commissioner Ponce.
Just a quick question. Any idea what the grant amounts might be, or is it not determined yet?
Oh, I don't know the answer to that question, but I can certainly follow up and ask. That's information I can absolutely bring back. I don't know.
Okay.
I do not see any other hands. So I will ask if we have a motion on this action item.
I'll move to write a letter of support asking to participate in the program. Yeah, there you go.
We have a motion to support participation in the program. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second. We had some discussion on that motion, but are there other things now that it's in the record?
I just think, again, it's a great opportunity. Salem has a lot of unique resources being a capital city, and the fact that a lot of things pertain to everyone in the state that happen here. We see that with a lot of resources that are being impacted. And so I think this will be great for us and great for future planning for how to preserve our resources.
Thank you. I'll also comment, absolutely supporting, agree with what Commissioner French just said. And the only hesitations I have are always that we're taking on, raising our hand for this, this, and this, and it does feel like we have a lot of things out there, but at the same time, it's just such a great opportunity and timely in that it's not the sort of thing we can do after the fact. So I think it's great there's an opportunity out there, and talked about it tonight. Seeing no other comments, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion that staff create a letter and support, say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? All right, motion passes. And that closes out our action items.
I'm ready to move into discussion.
Yes, sorry, I'm just shifting my things.
That's
So
okay.
now we will switch to our discussion items.
Yeah, and I'll try
which
to
as
be.
our,
Yeah, go ahead.
yes, as staff promised before our break, she can be fast. So thank you everyone for hanging in there, and
yeah,
I'm sure this is good stuff. So go for it, Kimberly.
Yeah, so National Hispanic Heritage Month is from September 15th to October 15th. I'm sorry, I meant to get this to you, Andy, and everyone. The Hispanic Heritage Month breakfast was actually this morning at the Convention Center. But this Saturday, there will be activities at the Capitol, I believe, beginning at 10. I think they're still happening. You can see a video there on your screen. So if that's something that interests you, I'll try to send you a link, Andy, so you can share that. Yeah, cool. And then the only other thing I wanted to just share with you, I mentioned this earlier during the Highland Neighborhood Association discussion, is that Zach and I are going to apply for an Oregon Heritage Grant with the idea that, trying to get funding for the Heritage Neighborhood Program. And I do know the answer to this question, Commissioner Potts, that the grant awards are generally between $3,000 and $20,000. So I know that Zach did some heavy lifting, and Kelly, Commissioner Kelly, look at me, I'm just using your first name, helped prepare a grant nomination for the Culture and Heritage Forum. I believe it was for a Travel Oregon grant. So I don't know, we may pull some stuff in there relating to interpretive signage because we have that kind of ready to go. But I just wanted to open that up in case you guys had any input or suggestions to offer. And I'm going to stop. Oh, go ahead.
Grant is this, Kimberly? Is this a CLG grant?
No, it's the Oregon Heritage Grant.
Oh, from the Oregon Heritage Commission?
Yep.
Okay.
I think Commissioner Ponce has his hand raised.
I wasn't able to see in that flyer there. Is there any match required for?
Yes, there is a match required, but it can be staff or volunteer time.
Okay. Oh, great.
So, yeah. So yes, I think that Commissioner Cottingham was mentioning his concern about all the things we're agreeing to do. And And so I know this segues into the work plan assignments update, but if we do get money for these things and we do move forward with them, then staff will be looking to commissioners to offer their time as well. So, but not till next year.
Exactly.
Whoa, I just vote yes. I don't participate.
Yeah. So that's all.
And we can always volunteer commissioners that aren't at the meeting. We can always sign them up for work plan assignments in the future. Thank you. Are there any other questions about the Heritage Grant? Segueing into work plan assignments, just going to ask if any commissioners have items that they wanted to bring attention to, ask for feedback on, or otherwise bring to the group tonight. The commission tonight.
Commissioner Thomas, just for the record, but also Commissioner Thomas had to step out due to technical difficulties. He's planning on rejoining. But as a note for his committee that was working on the brochure, we talked about it last time, but it has been printed and it's, I think it's been distributed, but also I added it to the Salem Culture and Heritage Foundation website. So there's a walking or a multimodal tool or tour that you can access via their website, which I think is just salemcultureandheritage.com. And one of the tabs is the tour, and it has, I think, 43 resources listed on it and information about those. So I just also got another message from Commissioner Thomas that they have to restart their computer. So it might be just a moment before they're back.
Thank you, Zach. I had to switch headphones there too. Are there other work items or reports from commissioners? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll move to newsletter assignments for the fall edition. Zach, where are we with newsletter?
I believe I've gotten all of them. I'll have to, or the only one I can't remember whether or not I've gotten is Commissioner Kurteman was maybe going to write something about archaeology for this edition.
Yeah, I wanted to. What's the deadline for this? Was it like last week?
It's like tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
I mean, I could do Monday if you'd have time this weekend.
I have so much time on my hands.
I believe you.
Pencil me in for Monday. I'll see what I can do.
Okay.
It might not be very long.
That's fine.
Okay.
So, but otherwise, I've gotten all the articles that we discussed. I don't want to prolong this meeting too much, but there's two additional things. Oh, Commissioner Thomas is joining us again. But two additional newsletter-y things. The last time we discussed that the theme for next issue could be around energy efficiency, and Commissioner Thomas had an article that they were interested in writing, and potentially Commissioner Ponce was going to write something about energy efficiency and the last application that we did, or yeah, for the I don't remember what building that was right now. My brain is too late.
The Justice
Building.
Yeah. And the energy efficiency there, but so if the commission would like to make that the official theme, and if anyone wants to sign up for articles surrounding energy efficiency, now would be the time. And as a
Tracy can do one. That's so bad.
And then this will go out in December.
Zach, will you please send an email to everyone too about that?
Yes.
even though most of us are here tonight, just to.
Yes, I can do that. And then the
you.
other newsletter related thing that we pushed off from last time is that we have had a member of the public ask us if they can write an article. And we discussed with legal counsel, and they drafted kind of a acknowledgement that any potential contributors would have to sign, acknowledging that the landmark, which is the name of the newsletter, is government speech, and we reserve the right to edit anything that's submitted, and that they would be submitting for a certain category or topic based on whatever the theme of the issue is. So that's what staff has kind of worked on, but it's up to the commission on whether you want to pursue that or if you want to just leave it to just commissioners writing.
I think it would add value. Of course, it's great to have additional potential authors, but when we have a variety of different topics that might come up, or topics that might be interesting to people in the community, I think it's a great way to bring people in Salem into the work we do, beyond just having to listen to or go to a hearing because you need a design review, all the other stuff we do. So I certainly wouldn't be opposed to it.
And I know I'm not a commissioner, but I do have an idea in that vein. We do have a historic property owner who has applied for a toolbox grant in our new energy efficiency category. And I think by December, hopefully, fingers crossed, he will be done with the project, and it would be a great opportunity for him to write up about his experience. So if that's something you guys would be comfortable with, then Zach and I can reach out to him and make him sign the form.
And this is not a procedural thing, so we won't have a motion or anything, but I'm going to use my role as chair to officially ask, does anybody have a concern with that they'd like to share now? Or if you'd like, you can email Kimberly later. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. Full steam ahead.
Thank you.
And that's it for the newsletter, I think.
Awesome. All right. That brings us to the Historic Preservation Officer report.
I just have one thing to share, and it's really cool news. So Restore Oregon announced that one of our downtown Salem buildings, the one that houses the Fork 40 restaurant at 440 State, received one of the 2021 Demuro Awards for excellence in historic preservation. So for those of you that are familiar with that building, and the owner, Charles Weathers, has done just a great job. If you've, I don't know, when have we gone anywhere this last year, but the interior, they did some archaeology in the back. So we worked with them to do some cool, a display on the interior. So have you seen that, Jamie and Jessica? Yeah, it's some artifacts.
I got to see.
Yeah, you should check it out.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so he's great. So anyway, I just wanted to share that.
That's great.
And I'm all done. I don't have anything else.
All right.
Good job, everyone.
Definitely don't want to touch those artifacts because they came out of an area right next to an oil drum.
I know, they're in a case. Yeah, but they're so cool.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. That's all we've got. So with that, I'll bring the meeting to a close. Gavel, gavel, gavel.
Get you a gavel.
Well done, Carol. That was a tough one.
I know. I didn't even think about the fact that I'm supposed to